Hello, everyone. I'm Joel Cordy, the owner of Chase Bliss Audio, and this is...
Josh Shimchick.
And the reason why we're here is because I did a video a few weeks ago where I was just casually talking about Condor and specifically talking about headroom, and it seemed like you guys liked it. And you wanted some more stuff like that where there's just kind of casual conversation happening about stuff. And here's Josh.
We have casual conversations all the time.
Yeah. Yes, we do. And you're in town because I love you and I care about you. And sorry, it's getting weird. We'll cut it out. No, we won't.
It makes me feel better.
Yeah. So, yeah. You're here, and how do we know each other? Let's go back in time a little bit.
Ooh.
The year is 2015.
Womb tone.
You bought an early womb tone.
I bought an early womb tone.
Or why did you get a womb tone?
I was looking for a phaser and saw the knobs video for warped vinyl, and then saw the one for womb tone, and I was like, that thing sounds pretty awesome. And so I got it.
You're into analog stuff.
I like.
You also like control.
Like
a lot of demographic.
A lot of control. I like analog for sure. I like a lot of phasers. I have a lot of phasers, and I like that you could change the stages on it. I like the mix. I like the ramp. And so I got it, and I was like, yeah, this does actually a really cool univibe. It does a cool trim. It does a cool phaser.
A boost.
The
like
preamp in it is very underrated. It's very cool. Just turn the mix and depth all the way down, and it's really good sound.
You didn't like something about it.
But I didn't like the phaser.
Yeah. Well, you didn't like a aspect of the LFO.
Yes.
So you emailed me a really super impressive email that like had a graph on it and stuff. And my normal reaction whenever I get an email like that, which isn't very often, where it's like really well thought. Well, I don't want to say I don't get emails that aren't well thought out, but it was very obvious that you knew what you're talking about, you know?
Yeah, the main thing was that the waveform, I expected it because of I have the small stones and the phase 90s and stuff. I expected the waveform to be perfectly a sine wave, but it sounded like at the top it broke through and was like a flat, clean signal, which we determined was because it went 100%.
Yeah, it was like really getting
in phase.
Too far in phase, so it was like anyway.
And you were like, I can fix that.
Well, so yeah, I mean, my normal thing is like I read feedback, and it like my initial reaction is just like, no, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Like, just deal with it, and then, but like that after like that process is like 3 seconds, and then like this is in real time as I'm reading the email, and I'm like, oh, I should maybe try that, and like see if there's something there. So then, of course, I just plugged in a womb tone right away, and I was like, yeah, it should be different. And luckily, it was pretty early on. So, I'm always just trying to make stuff as good as I can. But yeah, I mean, I sent you it was really just a firmware change.
Yeah, it was right away, and the thing that hit me was like, okay, you talk to manufacturers if you can. Usually you're ignored. You were like super receptive to my feedback and honest about what was going on, and immediately were like, try this. And like instantly I was like, I am so into this. And
we were buddies.
Yeah, and then it sounded great. It sounded like exactly what I want. I mean, you changed probably like a couple of lines or something in code, and it fixed it perfectly. And then I was super into that. And then from then on, I was just like, how can I not be into? But also,
wait a second. You hear that, Reddit? He was an internet stranger. He emailed me. Now we're friends. Now, like, we're really friends.
In real
I've
life.
been to his house.
Yeah.
Our children have played together.
This is
Our
not digitally
4-year-old
stitched.
Yeah.
I'm here in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our children have hung out.
Yes.
Yeah.
They love each other.
Yes.
They're really good friends. And they're like, anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. I just wanted to say
That we're
that
real, we're real people.
we really do form relationships.
Yes.
You know, inside of the gear
Life
world
happens
industry.
after pedals.
Yes, because of pedals.
Yes.
Hashtag because pedals.
Cheers.
I interrupted you though. What you were talking about? I just wanted to yell at Reddit.
I think the reason that I was so into the phaser and got into the rest is because every time I would try, I think the big thing with me is when I get a phaser or a trim like Gravitas or the Condor or the Brothers, I'll come up with a setting and I'll kind of like it that day or that week. But I hear something, I hear another track, or I come in or you try a different guitar and something changes a little bit. So I just want to tweak it just a little bit. And there's always like just a little range in one of the knobs that I can tweak just enough to get the new sound or a new flavor that I want. And it's really hard to do that with so many other pedals. And then I can save it, and then I can recall it with the presets, and I do that with all of them. And then when I try and do the same thing when you buy a digital pedal or emulation, you get a ton of control, but it always sounds a little flat to me. Like it always sounds a little, I hate to say 2D versus 3D, but that's kind of how I feel. I feel like it's like, it doesn't have the full bodiness of that. For some reason, the analog still makes me feel that way. And it might be just me or in my head, but it doesn't matter because that's how I feel.
Yeah.
And so
Feelings are real.
they are. I feel them.
Yeah.
So I feel like changing the little bit each time and having that is what really sold me on most of them.
I just checked. It seems like things are working.
Yeah.
So we should just keep going. This is the technology.
I thought this was part of the video.
It is.
Okay.
This is part of
It
it.
is now.
We'll cut it out.
I think
We'll
I
cut
have
it
Joel
out.
saying we'll cut out every video.
We'll cut it out.
Post.
We'll cut it out. Anyway, what do we have here? Some pedals.
Yeah. So I haven't seen a lot of videos with Brothers and Condor. I think there might be some, but
I got what happened is I used to do now we've started to do them again, where we do the instructional videos with the white background. We did one for Dark World, but there was a gap of I think starting with Brothers and Warp Vinyl Hi-Fi. We didn't do one for.
a little one for
Thermae.
Thermae. Yeah.
No, I never.
Mike did a little one.
Mike did,
Yeah.
and Condor, and really I blame you, Dan, because Dan was the one that produced these videos, and then he moved away.
He's your friend.
Yeah, but then he moved back, and then I think it was just laziness, So we're gonna try to do more of this stuff now. We got this room, we have internet friendships blossoming into IRL friendships.
Family.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about this stuff. You know what I kind of wanted to do? I kind of wanted to get selfish to start and just talk about one thing that I wanted to talk about with Brothers.
Okay.
We talked about it a little bit earlier. And basically, I kind of just wanted to talk about a little bit about how an overdrive works. And normal overdrives, almost all overdrives, like a tube screamer, so much stuff is inspired by the tube screamer, but the way that the signal flow happens is that, the guitar still comes in, and then you shave off some low end, and then the signal is distorted, and because that low end is shaved off, it's it's something that guitarists typically like. It gets the distortion is tighter and less flubby or whatever, and then you get more of like the mid-range thing happening. And then after the distortion, then you roll off some high end because you don't want it to sound harsh. Now, Brothers is just a weird pedal. Believe it or not, Chase Bliss released a weird pedal. And there's just a lot of things about it that aren't like normal overdrives or boosts or fuzzes, which some people love and some people get frustrated by, which, you know, I guess that's kind of like the mission statement of Chase Bliss pedals. Some people love them. Some people get frustrated by them, I guess.
But a big thing, too, is I remember when you were talking about coming out with this, we were like everyone was speculating, like, what's it going to be? You know, is it going to be like 2 tube screamers in a box?
That's probably what I should have done.
But I mean, the thing is there's a ton of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that where you're probably headed is that how to make this sound more traditional, or how a traditional overdrive works.
Yeah.
But in, you know, after it was all said and done, I was like kind of amazed that like the Brothers has its own thing, which is really hard to do. I feel like everyone's...
It's different.
It always sounds like something else already. And yeah, for better or for worse, this has its own thing going on. Mm-hmm. And like Thermae and a couple of the others,
do, for better or for worse,
they kind of make you play differently. Like they make me like, oh, I listen and it's like a band member. I'm like, okay, I have to respond to this now. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I just created this whole part out of nowhere because this thing does this thing that I didn't know, or a tube screamer wouldn't do, or a muff wouldn't do, you know?
And I think that's why people care about what we're trying to do, because it's different. There's a lot of stuff out there that's great, but it's, I don't know, people kind of expect, like if I put a couple tube screamers in a box, well, we probably would have sold a lot of them, but...
I mean,
whatever.
There are a lot of options here, but the fact that, you know, they have their own unique voice for sure. So,
all right, well, let's hear your guitar with nothing on it. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do with the boost here, which is pretty transparent on the B side, I'm just going to... Oh, it must be... Okay, it was like... So we should talk about our signal chain, because it actually sounded really good because we're overdriving an amp. Dan, I don't know if you can like zoom in on this or what, but basically we're going into the new vintage amplifiers, Agen 40. It's a great amp. I've had it for a long time. Nick, the guy that builds these amps, he also lives in Minnesota, up in Duluth. Awesome amp. We have it actually super loud, but we're using this really cool device called the Universal Audio Aux. And what you do is you run the speaker output in there, and then you're able to use it as an attenuator, so you can run your amp super hot, and then you can also record with the aux, and it does speaker emulation and microphone placement microphone placement emulation as well. And it's really flexible and simple, and everybody's kind of nuts about them, you know, for good reason. Yeah. But anyway, that's why, even though we were just doing the boost, we're like, it sounds... So, I guess we're cheating a little bit, but whatever.
And if there's aux crazy fans out there, that is using the 412 greenbacks with a 121 ribbon mic and a 421 off axis.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite mic setups.
So, in retrospect, maybe we should have set the amp for a little higher headroom and cleaner, but we've already gone this far.
But you know what? I personally, in my setup,
This is all about you.
this is like a bit of me
Yeah.
today.
So that we'll do a different video. Actually, all of our other videos.
There are
will
a
be
lot
with
of
it
clean ones.
clean.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot to be said about. There are a lot of low gain videos with brothers. There's not a lot of high gain. But if you can get your amp to a good, I mean, this is not really. Is it? It's off now. It's actually
that's true.
pretty clean.
Even with the humbucker.
Yeah, even with the
Okay.
humbucker in the neck. So it's there, but that it's right there. I mean, like it's just before edge of breakup, and we could actually push it more later. But yeah, when you know,
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the B boost, the B side boost, with the gain all the way up, and it just. So if I want like even with the single coil on the bridge, if I just want like a dirty rhythm sound. And even I'll even put Thermae on.
So you use Thermae mostly as a standard analog delay.
Yeah,
And you actually prefer it to tonal recall?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like tonal recall a lot. I love my original Blue Knob, but there's something about the repeats because I'd never had a reverb before Dark World, and so I use it as kind of like a background. To fill out the sound, and so you can tell it's really low in the mix, and the low pass is really kind of high.
So yeah, I mean that's the primary. The difference in the sound of the Thermae is that it has a slightly resonant low pass filter, which is cool for analog delay because it cuts out or doesn't cut, but like it doesn't amplify some of those lower frequencies. And then it shaves off the higher frequency stuff like the noise that's, you get a lot with analog delays.
It was a genius part of that because I use that. This is like my main delay now. And all the pitch stuff is like extra icing on the
Silly
cake.
business.
And I use it all the time, more in synth stuff, but it's, this just as a delay.
So this is
That's
is like
just the
your
boost into
sound.
the amp.
This is you do this a lot.
Yeah.
You got the B boost.
Yep.
Big. Hitting the front of some kind of amp.
Some preamp, yeah, that's set like pretty close to. Like if I don't use this, if it's not clean, with like a slight volume adjustment, I can get it clean. That's kind of where I want to be, like just so I can back it off a little bit and get my own sound. But yeah, the B side's a big part of the boost. I feel like a lot of people do the drives and the fuzz, and maybe a lot of people use the boost too, but. It's really underrated. I think.
I feel like Brothers is kind of polarizing in some ways because of like what I'm attempting to talk about, but we're getting sidetracked because of the B boost. That's like your favorite thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like the B boost and the A boost. You'll see a lot of comments online that's like, I love the boosts.
Oh, really?
But like
okay.
I don't see people saying like I don't like the boosts.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, they're good boosts, and they're the whole frequency spectrum. So that kind of leads me into what I was trying to talk about is that okay, so I'm gonna turn the gain way down and get it to kind of like more of a unity setting. Let's see if I can. Okay, so that's like pretty close.
Yeah, it's maybe a little quieter. It's
Yeah,
it's definitely changing the coloring the tone, which
Yeah.
is that's what makes it sound like it's a little quieter because probably cutting a little bit of the bass maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's so with what I was talking about earlier, normal overdrives, they cut low end before they distort. This pedal does not do that. It doesn't cut any low end before it hits the overdrives. And some people hate that. I kind of think it's an interesting sound because it opens up a lot of tonal options that aren't normally available in guitar pedals. But again, it's kind of a weird idea. But what I wanted to talk about is that one of the things that you know, that I hear is that, oh, you can't, you know, there's no tone control for like the low end or whatever. But actually, if you set up, you know, the pedal like this, where it's like essentially unity right now, and if you crank the tone knob all the way up, and now if you play, so now it's cutting,
it's totally cutting
a ton of low end, right?
Yeah.
So then if you run, if you cascade this like conditioned clean signal into the A channel after we've cut low end, you turn that on. I mean, it sounds much more like a traditional overdrive, you know. And then you can roll in the low end. And like, you know, it's
that
like
would even be
one thing I
like
love
just
yeah.
my like I always want to like crank the gain on something. So if you're like conditioning the tone and then going to this, if that was, and then now you've got like that overdrive sound where it's cut. That's it.
So yeah, and that's kind of like, you know, that's why this pedal's like not for everyone, because it's like, to get a normal overdrive sound, it like takes a little bit of effort, you know. But for people that are into it, they're into it. But like, what's crazy is that what initially was exciting to me about the concept is, okay, like we went into all this effort, you know, to set this up. We're cutting the low end, we're sending it into the drive, you know, on the A channel, and it's like, well, what if we take a drive and send it in, you know, it probably is going to sound horrible. Well, it's just different. It's a new sound.
Yeah,
you know?
it's actually sounds pretty good. It's kind of like flipping the EQ before and after drive. That's really what you're doing now.
So that's what I love about this pedal, right? So it's like you set up.
You might have to change the volume a little bit. But
yeah. Or, you know, you can turn this back up. 'Cause then you So it's like, you know, when you're thinking about, you know, as a circuit designer, you're thinking about designing an overdrive. It's like, okay, I got to cut some low end, and then I have to, you know, then I have to distort it, and then I have to roll off some high end. It's like, okay, yeah, but what if we did that and then just flip the order?
Yeah.
And that's what's cool is you just flip a toggle. It's like, oh, that sucks. That, you know, people are like, oh, it sucks. It sounds bad. So then don't save that preset.
Yeah.
I'm already sounding like defensive and weird. Sorry.
Well, that I will say that with, especially starting with the modulation pedals, I pretty much did nothing but adjust the knobs.
Yeah.
And with, in particular, these two, I feel like I'll set the knobs and then I just mess with the toggles. Because like I'll be somewhere on the gain range and then I'll just try all the routing combinations, or I'll try the different cutoffs.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the difference between me and someone else. It's just that one toggle. But you have it all here, so like that's why I think, and like I said, if I might change like 2 weeks later and be like, I want a little less low end or a little more end, or like all of a sudden I change speakers to my cab or something, and it totally, and I can't do that with like another overdrive. That's the thing that drives me crazy, you know.
And I think that's why it was appealing to me. Is like, it's not, you know, it's not necessarily the type of pedal where you're just like, I want an awesome overdrive sound, 3 knobs, and that's like, it's always going to sound amazing.
Yeah.
But as, you know, a designer, like where my mind is like, well, what would it sound like if we did this into this into this, and then to just flip a toggle or just like randomly do stuff, and then all of a sudden be surprised. Like, I actually was surprised. I thought that sounded pretty cool when we did. When
we changed the
full,
beat A to B.
I actually thought that sounded pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And that's what's interesting is like you can try out, new combinations that might be like against the rules, and it might surprise you, or it might sound really bad.
I think the biggest thing is like so many people are like, I can build a 2-screamer for $50.
Yeah.
Right. And I've done it myself, and that's fine. And like you said,
it's a great pedal.
It is, or not even just a simple overdrive, right? And you change the 3 knobs, and it sounds good, and it's right there. But how many times have I taken that pedal on and off of my board because I put something else on there that all of a sudden, for whatever reason, maybe it's impedance, maybe it's too much gain, too low gain, whatever it is, and these can stay on there because I can back it way off. I can use 1 channel, I can use 2. I think that your approach to it was super unique by leaving a lot more stuff on there, and I think if you don't know how to approach it, it can be, you can jump right into one of those things where like, oh, this is how I normally would think it would set up, and it doesn't sound good. But with a little bit more work, all of a sudden, now you have the value.
Yeah.
Because it is more expensive than a tube screamer. But the reason is because you can save, you can get all these things. And honestly, I mean, I have all the pedals on my pedal board, but most of them I only use like 2 or 3 settings.
Yeah.
I don't have 122 save. I mean, over time, I've saved probably a couple of dozen different ones,
and you're
depending on how it
into
changed.
too,
And I'm really into it.
Yeah.
But I think that most of the time, like in a set, if I'm going to play a set for a show, then I'll have a couple of presets for each one that I go to and change. That are like the more traditional sounds. And that's what you just did, was a more traditional sound. But you flip the order and it does change it. It changes it a little bit, but it still sounds pretty good.
Do you ever use the fuzz on the A side as like a distortion?
To me, it sounds more like a distortion than a fuzz. Yeah, because it's not like a hairy, gatey type fuzz.
Yeah.
That's not on here. Actually, I did figure out how to get a bias sounding fuzz.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe we can. I don't know if I can recreate it.
We'll cut this out if it's bad.
But it was like both fuzzes. I think this was down. This might have been like this. I think it was. Let's see. And then this was fuzz, and one of these was all the way up, and one was all the way down. And then I think the B had to be in the front, and.
Oh, that's a cool sound.
That's not on. I have to actually have it saved.
I'm gonna try to max this out.
Well, that's not the gated fuzz sound that I had, but
I like that sound.
That's a cool sound. It's very smooth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure,
but
not that I can do that, but it's like an Eric Johnson type sound where it's like he's got this fuzz face going into another tube pedal and everything else, but somehow there's like all this high end roll off that sounds, not that sounded like Eric Johnson at all, but like but that's a sound that he has that's really specific, and it kind of,
So I noticed, I actually didn't notice until right now, but you have the Condor in front of the Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess I usually have it after, but can you, why do you do that?
I actually mess around with it back and forth. I had it traditionally in front a lot more, and I've even experimented with it between my preamp and my power amp, just to tailor the tone of the preamp, because a lot of times, like if you overdrive, a lot of people might feel that.
Yeah. I want you to talk about, sorry, I interrupted you, but I want you to talk about your setup too.
Okay, so my general setup is...
I totally interrupted you though.
That's okay. I think I was going there anyway.
Okay.
So guitar, and then, like a wah, and then whatever my dirt section is, say it's Brothers, and then I'll have a preamp pedal.
I think it's over here. I'm
Yeah.
gonna grab it.
And then the nice thing about using this as my preamp, right? It's a tube. It's a real tube. I mean, high voltage tube preamp.
And
Just
it's
like
emulating,
it's just
or
a
not
section.
emulating. It's like
It's based off of
sounds
Plexi.
like a Plexi.
Yeah.
A Marshall.
And by doing that, my pedal board looks like this, right? So like all the dirt goes into here, and then I have modulation. I have it goes womb tone, hi-fi, I think Thermae, gravitas, and then dark world. But now I like my repeats really low, which is why I have them really low in the mix, because it's in front of the amp now. But by doing here, I can adjust it a little bit differently and have them higher. But I'll run. You can see like this setting. This is emulating the 2 channels being jumpered, and I just slam. So I have like a really dirty sound right away, and then I can just use the B boost and then shape with this. But then I can, if I want for something else, I can make it super clean and do exactly what we were doing. You know?
So, you like what we kind of accidentally were doing at the beginning, where we were slamming the front of the new vintage. That's what you like to do with
That's
this,
what I
because
like
this
to
is
do.
like this acts as like the front end of your amp.
That's it. It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because I have a separate power amp that I go into that's just a tube power amp, and then into a cabinet.
And that's the Fry.
The Fryette power station.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I just have like a 1x12. But the reason I put it, so I was doing that, and then I noticed that the farther up the Condor was in the chain, the more it sounded like pure frequency cut. And that's how I was approaching it, was, okay, I'm going to set my level, and then I'm going to cut frequencies till it sounds right. And, you know, in a band situation, I mean, if you're at home, it doesn't matter. You can make anything sounds good. But then as soon as you jump into a band situation, all of a sudden, like, what you thought sounded good is gone, usually. So I'm always thinking about the presence and how it sounds, and I like a lot of dirt. I like smooth sounds. So the farther back I started to move this, the more I noticed that Brothers, I thought, to me, reacted better to the Condor after it. And I realized it was because you didn't cut frequencies already. That's exactly what I'm doing.
You mean with this after the Condor, or the?
With Brothers after the Condor. Yeah, just like this. I realized, and actually I didn't realize till tonight that you said that, but the fact that you're not cutting a lot of low end is probably why I like this.
That totally makes sense.
Because now I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I'm adding that low cut that you maybe didn't design in beforehand, and then I can boost all those other frequencies, and actually I still get a little bit of volume lift for solos. And then I can, because I have control over everything, it doesn't matter what guitar I pick up, doesn't matter what pickup I do. I mean, I could save a preset for each pickup if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
But, you know, I like the variance that it has.
Let's dial something in then. So let's why don't you start with like an OD sound out of the Brothers that you would, you might like.
I think,
and
yeah, I would usually probably,
then we're on fuzz right now.
yeah, I would probably, usually it's like a boost. I like to go from clean to something where my rhythm is pretty saturated, but and this doesn't matter because I don't actually.
And I guess, yeah, again, this is like, the drive or like the distortion you're hearing is from the amp.
Yeah,
Just
it's just
I
pushing
don't want
it.
to take credit.
Well, I mean, it's a lot though coming from
Yeah.
the B boost if you listen to it without. So that's, and depending on the pickup, right?
I guess I just meant like the actual, the saturation. that
Yeah,
is amp.
But that's what everyone wants,
Yeah,
ideally, right? You want to push the tubes into like that beautiful sound, right? And so this, if I, so I might do that for like a particular part, and then I might want, I don't know if this is like, I'm just kind of messing around with the settings, but if I added this, then I would want, a full on, like if a chorus came, like a lot more sustained. sounds huge.
I'm remembering why like we were getting that. That's like this. I like that.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I have like one more level that I like,
And
which
then
is
you can
the Condor.
shape it.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
like if I'm like there, because that sounds super full and big, especially for like a chorus part or something. But then if you go to play a lead with that, it's kind of too much, too
And it's
many
wide.
frequencies.
It's not like I said. It's not that classic overdrive like frequency profile.
Yeah, and it sounds great in a mix. Like if you're playing all that, it's almost like a more of a muff fit in, right?
Yeah.
But then if I cut in this, and like my approach would be, I actually like the gain way up on it, and then I'll start with like trying to cut a little bass with the far left toggle, and like a lot of high end depending on, and then my general approach to this pedal is, a little bit of mid boost, play with the frequency somewhere between this range depending on your
It's like
rig.
1K and
Probably like 700K, which is more like a traditional
700,
two screamer, and then like a Marshall's at like 900, and then like Klon's might be at 1,000 or something like that. But that range you're like going in, and then cutting the low pass depending on what I drive with that, and then setting the volume. And I don't do a lot with these yet.
The resonance.
Not for just a traditional sound.
Yeah.
But without it, you're kind of like. And then when I turn this on, then I can get. You get like tons of sustain, and even that's like.
And you're going to cut.
Yeah.
Because you're sending more frequencies that are like really guitar frequencies that are going to cut through the mix, especially for a lead.
I found that really worked for me. I liked cutting them and then sending them because this almost is amp-like. Like the first time I heard Brothers, I'm like, it sounds like a power amp distorting because it has.
Especially channel A.
Yeah, exactly. And even
Peter's channel.
Even if you just use those two together, those two sound, that's just a different sound.
Yeah.
But you have so many combinations that like I always hear something, I'm like, oh, that sounds good. So right now I really like that as a, I feel like I'm always trying to make that kind of tone where it's like that. It's saturated, but it's got a nice mid range to it that feels like it would fit. And then I constantly change pickups with him too. Yeah. So that's my general approach.
Scooped with Condor in front? I've not experimented with that a lot. I do a lot of scoop stuff with
it after.
Condor after.
We probably, if we did, like if I was going to do a scoop thing, I would do it like pretty. I would not cut any bass. I probably would not cut any high end. I don't know how I would adjust the gain, but I usually feel like cutting the frequency to do it is more like in this range.
Yeah. So just to explain some of the controls here, prior to that, we were cutting some of the bass. Now it's pretty neutral right now. We have the low pass filter open, so it's not filtering out any high frequencies, and then we got the mids knob way down, and this is probably about 800 hertz right there, and so that's what we're kind of hollowing out. I guess we'll see how that sounds into the boost. That's not like a tone I'm crazy about, but it's a thing.
Well, actually, I would probably, if I wanted to scoop something, I would want something heavier.
Okay.
And I might actually do like a parallel, and then maybe even the fuzz, so you get that distortion
I might
sound.
try to turn the bass way up
and then
too.
boost.
But not right away, but
And like what happens if you...
that's a command.
And you can actually...
I got him pretty wicked right now.
You can get even a little bit more high end by using the resonant.
Oh, as like
if you
a
wanted,
bite.
Yeah, if you wanted to do that. I mean, and that's the parallel mode with this, by the way.
Okay.
You could probably get even more
Oh,
aggressive.
yeah, play a little bit more. I want to mess around with this.
See, that's when you get it like the Queens.
Yeah. See, that's why these pedals are fun, right? I mean, it's like I have the tones like, super dark over
Yeah.
here, but then it's like a super aggressive resonant low pass filter, and it's like it sounds like a synth in a way.
I actually was curious. You had it like wherever you had this here. If we did bring just these up,
Sorry.
what would happen if we?
Yeah.
That's where you could probably sweep. Like anywhere you start doing that with if you did a ramp.
I just love that sound. See, that was like, oh man, when we brought this pedal to NAMM, it was like, that's all I would do with it. And it's like, that's why it's great having, like, I'm not surprised it's devolved into this because I was controlling the knobs, but it's nice having someone talk about like more traditional,
Yeah.
practical uses of it, because I just get on the low pass.
Yeah, they're
Whatever.
Well, and you know what? I should say too that for anyone that would consider trying, if they haven't tried this after, the other really nice thing about having it here is if you have all your dirt before, that's traditionally where most people would run their Univibe,
Yeah.
their wah, And you can do all that with this. So
Yeah.
if you sweep the frequency with the mid all the way this way, if you ramp the frequency with the mid on this side, it's a really cool univibe. If you do it more on this side, it's more of a phaser. But then, you've seen people put in expression pedals and do the frequency so you get a wah. I like that stuff before dirt. You can put it anywhere, but I like it before, and then it's already in that position.
What's cool too is that I just want to make looks like we're still good. Is that I'm so used to having this after and messing with the low pass, and it's so dramatic and it's cool and it's really fun, but it is still working. I was like, worried. But it's so dramatic, it's kind of like fatiguing because it's just like that.
You get
but that was some crazy stuff going into the super high gain stuff. That I honestly haven't really tried this configuration, and it was kind of getting me psyched a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like when I put the Condor after, I get more of a narrower band, and the frequencies stick out like I have a really dramatic EQ on it, probably because of the exact placement of it. But after, it is a little bit more natural sounding, and in particular into the Brothers. I mean, this sounds good into. I mean, I bet we could leave this off. And just into the amp, we could probably come up with, if we went back even to the, I mean, now you've got like a super scoop thing going on, but like, if you went more traditional, even like leave it here and just roll off a little low end and a little high end with the gain up, I bet you would get a good, I mean, I don't know, we haven't tried this, but. And so you might want low end back.
I thought that was okay.
The neck? No.
No. I was like, what?
But that sounds like natural amp breakup, and we're not doing much here. We're just like cutting a little bit and accentuating a little bit of the mids.
Yeah, and I think especially with the way that we have the amp set.
Yeah.
If you throw this like avalanche of mid-range guitar frequencies at the front end of a nice amp like that, like it's gonna be a compelling sound.
But that's what's cool about for me with these pedals is like it's hard for me to get. Well, I don't want my amp to sound like that all the time.
Yeah.
And so I could maybe get the amp to dial in like that, but then sometimes there's something about a transistor hitting a tube just right, that combination that just sets everything off. And it is kind of, and if you don't like, if that's a little too bright for you, you can either, instantly get a change, or you can do it here.
These
there's different effects.
These especially.
Yeah, that's it. And even if I use my volume knob with that, it still reacts the same. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How long have you been doing this, Dan? Is this too
50
long?
minutes.
That's probably. Is there more stuff we need to talk about?
And we covered a lot, I feel like.
We don't want to go over an hour, right?
Yeah, I'm sure most people tuned up. I know.
Yeah, nobody's watching.